Hello, I'm Pete. This is Mark. We're the designers of this new game, Phantom Division, and we're going to show you how to set up a mission. We're going to use this mission setup sheet to tell us where we need to place all of the elements of this mission so we can begin playing. All right, we're going to need to have the corner pieces,
Plus
and
pieces?
the crosses, and
Crosses.
and the corners. And these are all the walls and the door segments for the entire game.
Game uses die-cut neoprene mats.
I believe that's corner and
And then right here. Wait, did we do
I probably put something in the wrong spot. Corner here. That's the one.
Oh, there we
All
go.
right, great. Okay, so right on the mission setup sheet are all the numbers that tell you exactly where each piece goes, so you don't have to guess, which makes it super convenient because you can just look on the card and or the sheet and like you immediately know exactly where to put everything. And these pieces slide in really, really gently, so like you're not going to damage them or anything very easily. It's just very, very well set up. Okay, so that's a 3 and a little door segment, then a 1.
These go in very easily.
Yeah, right. They're super smooth, smooth as ice and twice as nice. Yeah, where's your 1s? Here, Mark, I'm gonna give you some 1s because then you're gonna need them shortly.
Thank you.
Like the coolest thing about this is like because of the way everything is integrated, it's super simple. Excuse me, I'm trying to reach. It's super simple to set everything in. It's fast, which I really like. Because you can jump right into the mission, and if you want to play another mission later, you can just tear it down, kind of organize it loosely into piles with the numbers are written right on the pieces, so it's really easy to find everything, and then you jump right in and play another match. It's really kind of cool. All right, that is the 3 section. All right, so there's a 5. Do you have the 5? There we go. I'm gonna need a 2 and a 2. For the
Okay.
What I like about these 1 pieces is that some of these are tighter than others. And you can just put it in sitting upright if you need to. And there's no net effect. Right.
Oops.
So 4 and a 2.
Goes here.
2 and a 2.
Give me a door frame. And the 4.
Right.
There's that. I just need a 5 right here. And a 2 and a 2.
All right. 2 and 2 there. I think
You got a back.
that's it. No,
Good
the back wall.
here.
A 4 and a 2 here. 4 and 2.
Okay,
Right,
that
so
is
start tossing in some
that's put
doors.
together. We have 3. We have red doors are locked, green doors are unlocked, and then the black ones are actually cracked walls, and they go in certain spaces on the map and can be blown up if you have the right equipment. But they all just drop in very easily. The cutout goes on the bottom. Because if you're using a shotgun, you can actually fire through a door, and the lip on the bottom of the door catches the first disc and then the other one can sail right into the room. It's a pretty neat effect.
The only difference is on the outsides and on the damageable walls that are not actually doors, they're just
Yeah.
elements that can be destroyed. So like, along with other destroyable terrain, you lock those so that you can ricochet off them if you want to take ricochet shots.
And then
I
think
reckon
that's...
Oh, there's got one here.
We
That
got,
is a
that
green. I got
is
it
a
right
green,
here.
okay.
All right, so we have now got the entire board set up, and now
Got
I
a
have to-
place. I get a security camera, goes over there. And again, these are all things that are on the mission setup sheet.
And I'm gonna roll the die in order to determine where we place these terrain. So like this is a permanent terrain, so that goes there, the little palette. And then I'm gonna roll the 2. So anything that has a 1 to 3 on it, or anything that would show, goes, and anything that has a any other element on it that would indicate that that's what goes there, you just put them in there. So 2 hit crates and let's see. A terminal. Terminal goes there.
Then, meanwhile, while he was doing that, I placed the objective tokens. There are 8 objective tokens that go in every mission, and they will relate to different primary objectives and secondary objectives, which we'll show in a moment. Oh, and sentries. We are playing a 2-player game on easy. This particular mission will then have 3 sentries. With more players, it would be a higher number of sentries based on the map. And there's that guy.
I think that is everything. So now we need to
Put initial enemy placement.
there's your
my
enemy
enemy
bag.
bag.
So we've already preloaded the bag. You wanna
Yeah. On easy with 2 phantoms, we have 4 patrols and 1 enforcer. Patrols are like the most basic enemy. Enforcers are a little stronger. And we put them all in the bag and then randomly pull out and place them based on where the mission indicates. Let's see, I got
Here.
one guy right here. And actually he's there. And here. Oops. And oh, there's the enforcer, and I better make sure he's on the 2. He has 2 health, and you can flip him over to the 1 health when he takes 1 damage. But
and the crates are exactly the same. When you see 2 shields, you flip it over when it's taken a hit.
yeah, those got to start on the
Oh,
2,
Good one.
and we've got the terminal on the 2.
And the 2 searchable crates,
Yeah,
which is a mini game. Okay, so I think that's it. We're all set up, and now we need to do the.
yeah, that's everything.
Now we need to do the
Okay, the
mission
objectives.
board. Yeah.
Okay, now that we have the map set up, it is time to prepare the mission control board. This controls our objectives and helps us keep track of time and other things. We have an easy side, which we are going to be playing on, and there is also a hard side on the other side. This is dual-sided, and there's just a couple changes between them. But as I said, we're going to play on easy. The first thing I'm going to do is take a camera status token and place that right there. What that indicates is that all of the security cameras on the map are currently live. Certain game effects could have us flip that over to disabled, meaning all of the cameras are not functional, but they start turned on. I'm going to put the threat tracker on 0. There are no threats currently on the board. And that will climb as the phantoms take actions like shooting and throwing grenades and things. And the timer token goes on 15 when you're playing on easy, and that is going to tick down. We have 15 rounds to complete all of our all of our primary objectives. We have 3 decks of cards that control the mission itself. Primary objectives, secondary objectives, and plot twists. Once all of the primary objectives are dealt with, we can end the mission toward the end of the round. I'm going to reveal the first one in Objective A, and it is a time bomb. And since we Some objectives require multiple slots. For example, if there were 2 bombs, it would take A and B. But this one is just 1 bomb. So I'm going to reveal a second primary objective. Anytime it takes less than 3, there will be 2 primary objectives. And it is a second type of bomb. This is a mercury bomb. There are multiple objectives, hostages, gathering intel, taking out a certain target. But in our case, the way the deck was shuffled got us a time bomb and a mercury bomb. Since we now have 2 primary objectives, the rest of the objectives will be secondary objectives, and those go face down. So we will not know what those are until we observe them, either with the Phantom's own eyes or by hacking a camera, for example. And once those are in place, the only thing left to do is flip over 2 plot twist cards. Plot twists just kind of bend the rules or change them altogether to make the mission come out differently. And the first one is called Frenzy, and that means that patrols, which are the most basic enemy, roll 2 attack dice, adding the results together until we find objective A, which is the time bomb in this case. So that is a very dangerous card, and it's going to make us want to find that card, or the objective, very quickly. And finally, adverse reaction. If a reaction card is drawn, the Phantom suffers 1 damage in addition to whatever the card says. And reaction fire might happen during the playthrough, and it's more deadly with this card in play. And with that, the mission control board is set up.
All right, now that we have both the map and the mission control board set up, we're ready to determine what we want to bring into battle and with who. So, I've chosen Marshall Cricks, and on the back of this bio card gives you an indication of like what his story is, and a suggested loadout, just if you've never played before, is things that make it easy to just grab and go and play the game. So every one of these characters currently starts with 4 shield, which is how much damage they can absorb, and 4 speed, which is how many spaces they can move. Now, the mission control board may give you an idea of what you want to bring into battle. Inside of your footlocker are all of the cards that are currently available for you to load your guys up with. I've decided in advance, based on what we're doing, that I want to bring these cards. Now, you have equipment, weapons, and then augmentations. And every one of these has a different purpose. In this case, I brought armor plating, which gives me an additional damage that I can absorb in my shields. I'm bringing a submachine gun as my primary weapon, and you never have more than 1 primary weapon and 1 secondary weapon, which you can change just by placing a card on top. You've also got a melee close contact weapon. And what I'm choosing for this is a toolkit, which gives me bonuses to do some of the mini games and gives me advantages. And then on top of that, you have backpack cards, and you're only ever allowed to have 1 backpack card. And this is a dual purpose card, and it has an amount of charges. So that's how many times you can use it effectively. And what this will do is it gives me the option, in this case, to use high velocity rounds, which have a stronger attack, and a stun grenade, which essentially neutralizes enemies so they can't react to what I'm doing. So now that I've got all this set up, and Mark has his set up, we are ready to play. All right, it's worth noting that while we are playing with 2 Phantoms right now, this game was designed with solo players in mind. They can use 2 Phantoms, 3 Phantoms, 4 Phantoms. 2 people could play 2 Phantoms each, or 1 could play 1. It doesn't matter. This game scales perfectly. You can even play Lone Wolf if you wish. That gives you a few enhancements for survivability. But not only does it scale with the amount of Phantoms playing, there's 2 modes, easy and hard, which we discussed before, which scales the game even further so that you can get the challenge you want.
Now I want to talk about different elements of the map, starting with the start zone over in the corner where our 2 Phantoms are going to begin. There are 3 different deployment methods that different missions can utilize. This one uses a standard deployment where we just kind of start on a specific zone, and then the mission setup card or sheet talks about where those go. There's also a shuttle deployment and a drop pod deployment, and those involve different mini games that you play before the game starts. Each area in the map is delineated with orange lines and or walls. So if it's like an enclosed room, that is an area. Some of the larger areas have multiple areas, or larger sections of the map have different orange defined areas. And then within that are individual squares where the phantoms will move. You will notice that some of these squares have little icons and colors and numbers. These are part of 3 different patrol routes that the enemies will move around to. And you'll see that during the gameplay section. Also, we have sentry locations based on the number of phantoms. Some of them will remain empty. And different crate locations or cover blocks, and some of those are empty based on how the setup process goes. We also have different doors. There are 3 different types technically in the game. The green ones are unlocked and can be opened freely. The red ones are electronically locked or e-locked. Those have to be opened via being hacked. And the black ones are basically represent cracked walls that can be blown open with explosives.
The next thing we're going to talk about are these tokens. There's 2 types on the board usually. These are objective tokens. When a phantom gets line of sight either directly or indirectly using equipment or other yet to be discovered effects, you'll flip it over, it'll have a letter on it, and that letter will tell you what it is based on the card that's associated with it on the mission control board. So effectively, those are the objectives that you're trying to discover and determine what they are. The other kind are cameras. Again, these are controlled, or at least indicated their status on the mission control board. They don't really have much of an effect under normal circumstances, but when they get line of sight to a phantom, there's a game effect. Also, through some game effects like hacking terminals, what can happen is you can use them to observe other gameplay events. So if there's a camera that has line of sight to an objective and you use a terminal to hack it, you effectively can flip over that as if you were looking at it with your own line of sight.
I want to talk about the different enemies we're going to be encountering in the mission. The alien force that the phantoms are up against are called the Goph, and there are several different unit types. There are going to be 3 in this gameplay video, but there are others in the game, and I don't want to spoil them, so we're not going to talk about them. But we have the basic patrol. That is the most low-level enemy. There are also robotic sentries that don't move at all, but they are very damaging if they attack you. And then also there are going to be enforcers, and those are kind of a higher level enemy that actually have 2 health, and they are immune to stun. I want to talk about the different cards. Each enemy has a statistic card and details kind of what it does and how much health it has, etc. There is an indicator for health. There is the concept of an enemy's tier level. For example, the patrol is tier level 1, a sentry is tier level 2, and the enforcer is tier level 3. And those just define kind of their relative strength. And then finally, how many areas they move when they move. Generally, that's just going to be 1. An enemy will move from 1 area, which again is just a delineated section of the map. Or they won't move at all in the case of sentries. Once they're placed, they never go anywhere. And then finally, they have some action text on the card, and that is what they do when they act. Generally, that is going to be attack every phantom they can see. But it also might detail things like being immune to stun or not being able to be hacked. And that is all there is to say about the enemies.
Next up, I'd like to talk about the minigames. I'm going to start with the deployment methods. There's 2 of them, and you'll only be using those at the beginning of a mission if it's called for on the mission sheet. So basically, you've got your shuttle deployment, and then you've got drop pod deployment. And you'll only do those once, and then they go away. During gameplay, if you're injured and you want to revive, you can gain some health that way. You've got a mercury bomb. You've got a time bomb. You've got the E-lock, which is what you use to hack into doors and open the red doors. And finally, you've got the hacking game. You use that to interact with terminals, and that allows you to do all kinds of different things. All right, now that we're ready to play, the first thing we do is decide where we're going to start our phantoms. So we know that we have some objectives that are very close by. So we're going to go ahead, we've made the decision that we're going to go ahead and go after them in a certain order that we think is going to be best. There is no specific turn order. You can always take turns whenever you want to take your turn, as long as you've only taken 1 turn in the round. So I'm going to start here because I want to be here, and Mark is going to cover me, so we're going to put him here. So what we're going to do is, at any time when it's your turn, when you've decided to take your turn, you get 2 standard actions and an unlimited number of free actions. Now, standard actions are attacking, so that's shooting, things like that. You can move people up to your speed rating. You can interact using doors or equipment, like you can interact with a terminal, and then you can use equipment if possible. So like if you have a backpack item or a toolkit that you want to use, you can use that item. So I'm going to go ahead and take my first action, my first standard action, and I'm going to move. I can move up to my speed rating, which starts at 4 in almost all cases, unless you have an augment or something else that gives you more speed. So you can move diagonally or orthogonally. So 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to forfeit that last movement because I don't need it. I got where I wanted to be. It's worth noting that I could be here, here, or here, and I can still activate that door. You just have to be on the corner or in front of it. But just for brevity's sake, I'm going to start there. All right, so because I'm trying to unlock this door, I need to play the E-lock game. So the first thing you do is flip over a code card. I'm playing on easy mode, so I'll take my 4 discs and put it on 3, 5, 9, and 0, as shown on the card. Next, I have to get my discs ready. So on easy mode, you start with 3 discs, and they're large. Because I have the toolkit item, it gives me an extra flick. And I now have 3 shots, starting anywhere behind this line, to clear all of those shots off. If I am successful, I can then either open that door immediately, revealing everything inside and potentially putting myself in danger, or I can simply change it to an unlocked door for use later, which is what I'm going to do if I'm successful. If I fail at this, if I expend my discs and I don't get rid of all of them, what happens is the threat goes up. It's like a minor alarm event. So here we go. There's no time. This is pretty straightforward. There we go. Took me 2, and I succeeded. All right, because I was successful in my attempt at the E-lock minigame, I have a choice. I can either open this door now and immediately reveal everything inside of this, which might put me at risk, so I'm not going to do that. So instead I'm going to use the other option, and I'm going to replace the locked door with an unlocked door that I can open for free as a free action at other times. And now both of my standard actions are taken, and now it's Mark's turn.
Okay, so for my first standard action, my Phantom has an augment equipped that lets me move 5 spaces instead of the normal 4. I am going to move 1, 2, 3, 4. Note that you can move through friendlies. I don't want to use my 5th movement because if I were, it would put me out here in line of sight of this enemy. and I would be subject to reaction fire. At the end of every action, any enemies that have line of sight on you will attack you or conduct reaction fire. So I am going to end that first standard action tucked behind that corner. For my second standard action, I could fire upon that sentry, but I don't want to raise the threat level yet. I want to keep things stealthy. So I'm going to move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to this space right here. Since I did not end my action in line of sight of that enemy, even though I did technically cross in front of it, it did not see me. And that is the end of my turn.
All right, now that both phantoms have taken all of their actions, it's time for the enemies to move. Now they move in one of two ways depending on whether the danger token is on the board, which we'll get into later, but that is basically if someone has shot or made noise, that is placed in the area. So because there's quiet, they don't know we're here yet. So they're going to move in tier order. Now you may remember we talked about the cards with the enemy's tier on it. That tells you how they move. So in this case, enforcers move first, and they move to the next highest number on their track. He's on number 2, so he's going to move to number 3. Then, within the next tier down, which is the patrol tier, which is tier 1, we get to decide which order they move in, which will be most advantageous to us. In this case, we both don't believe it's actually going to make much difference. So number 3 is going to move to number 4, and number 4 is going to move to number 5. And that's it. They've moved. All right, now that the enemies have moved, you have to determine whether they would take cover or not. They don't take cover if there are no enemies in line of sight. They don't see us, they don't know we're here, so they don't do anything. But had one of us been in line of sight of them or a camera, they would move to the closest cover between us and them. All right, now that we've determined whether the enemies needed to take cover, which they didn't, the enemies would take actions. So their actions are on the enemy cards, and it tells you what they do. In this case, they're not going to do anything because they don't have anything to do. But normally, if they had someone in line of sight, they would do whatever it says, like shoot at us or attack in some other way or move, depending on what the card tells you to do. Now that we've resolved the enemy actions, it's time for a status update. This is when you check your victory conditions to see if you've won. The first thing you do is check to see that you've accomplished your 2 objectives, your primary objectives. If you have not, then the game continues on, and all you need to do is reduce the timer by 1 turn, getting closer to failure. All right, we're starting the second round. I am going to take the first turn only because it's advantageous, but again, anybody can take the first turn. So for my first action, I'm going to take a free action, and by removing that door, now everything in this room can see me, if they can see me, but I can see everything, because when you're near a door in one of these spaces, you can view as if you're from any one of those spaces. So now I'm going to flip this over, and that is objective A, which is a time bomb. So I need to go ahead and put a timer on it, and it always starts on this, 4, and at the end of the round, it will just keep ticking down until it explodes or until I defuse it. So I still have my 2 actions, 2 standard actions. So I'm going to go ahead and go 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to forfeit my last movement point just to get where I want to be, so I'm close to the bomb and also near this terminal. And now I'm going to hack this terminal with the goal of shutting this down to make it safe for Mark to enter that room. All right, so I've decided for my second standard action to hack. First thing you do is you choose what you want to do. I'm going to disable the system, which means turn off any robotic enemy. So that's what I want to do. So I'm going to flip this over, which is a hacking card, and it tells you what the secret code that you have to roll and what the failure effect is. Unlike e-lock doors that would cause an alarm or cause something bad to happen, this has a varying effect depending on what it is based on the card. So in this case, I just take 1 damage if I fail. So on easy, I get 6 dice. what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll and roll and roll and place the dice as quickly as I can to try and get 5, 5, 6, 6. And the sand timer, if it runs out first, I'll take that damage. You ready, Mark?
Yep, here we go.
Go.
There's a 5. All right, we just need
There it
one more
is.
5. Got it.
Okay, so.
All right, plenty of time left.
Yeah, got lucky. So we've succeeded.
Cut.
All right, so I succeeded. Everything's fine. So the first thing I do is resolve what I did, which was disable the system. So I take this sentry offline, and it is defeated. And that protects Mark when he enters this room. And these are only 2 uses, so I flip it to the opposite side, indicating that I've used 1 use, and that's the end of my turn. Now it's Mark's turn.
All right, so for my first standard action, we are going to, for time's sake, assume that I correctly unlocked this electronic door, and I'm going to immediately open it so that I can see the contents. I'm tucked back behind here, so even if this is an enemy, I'll be safe. I'm going to flip this objective token, and it is C. That is a secondary objective. Let me take a look at what that says. A sensor tripped raised the threat by 2. So the threat climbs to 2, and now the danger token will go in this area. Because anytime something causes threat, the danger token moves to that area. That is my first action, was the interact. And for my second action, since there are no enemies in here, I'm going to move in. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to stop by this crate that's searchable, and I'll deal with that on my next turn. But that is the end of all the Phantom's actions.
All right, both Phantoms have taken their actions, so now it's time for the enemies to move again. But this time, the danger token is on the board, and because of that, they move differently. Now they all rush to that space, again, in tier order. So they take the shortest possible path. This Enforcer is a tier 3, so he's going to move first. So we have to count the spaces, or excuse me, the areas. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Those are the shortest paths, so we get to choose the most advantageous one. I think I want to put him in here. So he's going to move into the highest numbered space in there, regardless of the color. So he's going to move to the 4. Now we get to move the other guys, the patrols, because they're tier 1. And we, again, because there's a number of them, we get to choose the order that we want them to move. So I'm going to move this one first, and I'll move him into this room, which is a 3, and here's the 2, so he goes to the highest again, even if it's not his color. And this one, we go 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, so he has to go in here. So I am going to go ahead and move him into the 8 space. And now, they've all moved. All right, now that the enemies have moved, we're going to check if they need to take cover. No one's in line of sight, so they don't take cover, so we skip that altogether. Then, we see if they take actions. And again, there's nothing in sight, so there's no line of sight to anybody, so they don't do that either. So we're going to roll right into the status update. All right, we're ready for the status update. So first thing we do is check victory conditions. We haven't achieved them, so the game continues. Remember when there was a bomb on the board with a 4? Now we're going to bump that down to a 3 and put it back on top of the bomb. And then we're going to reduce the round timer yet again. And now we're ready for reinforcements and threat.
All right, it is time for the reinforcements and threat phase. That is the last phase of a round. It did not take place in round 1 because there was no threat. Right now we have the threat tracker at 2, but the danger token, which is out of frame, is on the board, and it represents the number of Phantoms plus 1. So for all intents and purposes, our threat level is 5. So when we have a threat level that has an associated spawn number, which it says spawn 1, we roll the spawn die. And there are various results. We might get an enemy on a given path, or we might get lucky and get no enemy, or we might get really unlucky and roll every path. So, let's see what we get. No! Okay. So, I spawn enemies by pulling them from the enemy bag. First one, I got a patrol. I'm going to put that on yellow 1. Second enemy, another patrol. I'm going to put that over on, let's see, green 1. And there are no more enemies. So even though I would be drawing another enemy, the enemy bag is empty. They're all on the map. So, and the advantage of getting this result is that the spawn track level, the threat track drops to 0. With that, the reinforcements and threat phase is almost done. Since no enemy has line of sight to the danger token, it comes off the map. And that's the end of the phase.
All right, we're ready for this round. We were discussing whether Mark should take his turn first, but again, I think I'm going to take my turn first. So the first action is I'm going to take him and I'm going to move him to this side, which keeps me in the corner protected and out of line of sight of everybody. My free action, I'm going to open this door and get rid of it. And for my second standard action, I'm going to fire my submachine gun SMG. It causes a threat of 2 because of, what kind of gun it is. And I'm going to take a couple shots and try and take out some enemies. Because this is a small gun, it doesn't do any damage to crates. If it was a bigger gun and I hit a crate, it would do damage to a crate. So because I'm here, I can shoot from here or here or here or here or here or here because those are adjacent spaces. But I'm going to shoot from here, and anything I hit, including my friendlies, are injured when they get hit. I'm ideally going to make this flick. I sure hope I hit all 3. Okay, I hit the sentry, and I still have 1 bullet left. So I'm going to try and take him out.
I think he got hit. Also, the crates are not affected because he has an SMG.
Yep, so he's
gone.
He's gone.
And
the danger token comes on, and threat is increased by 2.
I already did it.
Oh, okay. So we're good to go. And that is all of my turn. I've taken both of my standard actions. Now it's up to you.
Okay, it is time for my turn. For my first action, I'm going to search this crate and that's an interact action. I'm going to be playing the search minigame. I've got all of my search tokens in the bag. I'm going to give them a shake. And first one I pull out is a threat. I made some noise, so threat goes up by 1.
Threat 3.
I can, at this point, stop, but I want to press my luck.
Of course.
Because I want to find some loot. So I'm reaching in, pulling in another token, and I got lucky.
Woo!
I got the loot card draw. So I draw the top card. I got a new backpack.
Which one?
Stolen credentials and a stun grenade. Oh. Stolen credentials will automatically succeed a hack attempt. I could equip it immediately and throw away my existing backpack, but instead I'm going to put it in the footlocker for future missions. There we go. That's the end of my first action. For my second action, I'm going to move to the opposite side of the crate. I can just move through it. Now, I could use a free action to open this door, but I am out of standard actions, so I would rather open the door on a later turn when I have all of my actions so I can deal with whatever might be out here. There's a security camera out here I want to eliminate. I'm going to end my turn, and that's the end of the Phantoms actions.
All right, Phantoms are done, so now it's time for the enemies to move. Again, we have the token is on the board, so they're all going to rush towards that. Again, starting with the highest tier, we're going to move to the next zone, the highest number within it, irrespective of the color. And then we have our choice on the rest of these guys, who to move. These patrols are all the same. So I'm going to move him here. I'm going to move him to the 5. I'll move him to the 3. And then they've all moved. Nobody has any line of sight on anyone, so we're not going to take any actions. So we're going to roll right into the status update. All right, back to the status update. Check the victory conditions. We have not defused any of those bombs, so we're still playing. The timer dice get reduced to, it was at 3 and now it's at 2 for that one time bomb. And now we reduce the round timer. And we're good to go. All right, status update's done. Now it's time for reinforcements and threat. We have quite a bit of threat, so we're going to have to deal with that. Right now, our current threat level is 3, and another 3 on top of it because the danger token is on the board. So, now it's a 6. We got to roll once. Mark in mind.
I'm rolling the die, and we got the circle path.
Ooh. So, we don't have any enemies left in the bag, right?
Bag is empty, but
So-
we have a dead one.
So during this phase, if you have any dead enemies, they go back in the bag, and
Back in
that's
the
where
bag.
you draw.
So technically, we do know what enemy we're going to get, but in certain situations, you wouldn't. And he goes on the lowest numbered path that I rolled. So he's going to be right here, up in my face, and he
Okay.
can see me.
So what
It's
we're
not a
gonna
problem yet.
Yet. So what we're going to do now is we're going to reduce the threat by half rounded down. So we're going to drop that down to a 1. And that's the end, and we're ready for the next round.
Except that no one can see the danger token, so it is now back off of the board. And we've already got that timer down. We're all good. Okay, we are going to start round 4, and this time I'm going to take the first set of actions. I am going to start by taking a free action, opening this door. Now, that is going to open me up to reaction fire because an enemy has line of sight to me. Luckily, I am in cover, but I have to roll the reaction die, the red die, anytime you end an action in line of sight of an enemy. So, I'm going to roll that.
Oh, die.
Okay, we've got the card draw result. So, there is a deck of cards specifically for reactions. And I'm going to draw the first one. Deploying cover. Place a cover block next to the enemy, between them and the nearest phantom if possible. It may cover a patrol space. So, they're going to deploy cover between them and myself. Also, since we have a plot twist that causes me extra damage anytime a reaction card is drawn. So I'm going to take a damage. My cover is not going to protect me from that. Okay, so also as a result, I got the danger token, which was previously in the area, on top of me. Effectively, the threat level is the same, except that now if I move out of the area, it will move with me. So, that's the end of my first free action. For my first standard action, I am going to conduct an attack. Excuse me, I have an assault rifle, and I'm going to use a burst fire, 3 bullets. I'm going to use the medium, and let's see. Okay, my weapon destroys cover blocks, impacts terrain. I also, since I knocked a cover block into this enemy, I have stunned him. But it's not going to matter because I'm going to use my second shot to attack him. Got him. So, won't matter that he was stunned because he's now gone. I have a third shot and I'm going to attack through the doorway and attack this security camera that's out here. Got it. That was a pretty easy shot. My threat level rises by 4 because of my weapon, and I have 1 standard action left. And I'm going to use my sidearm, my secondary wingman, it's called, and I'm just going to take a single shot with a small bullet to this patrol out here.
And that's now threat level is now 6.
That just goes up by 1.
Yep.
Got him. And with that is the end of my turn.
All right. Now that Mark's caused enough chaos, I'm just going to try and solve this by diffusing this time bomb. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to tuck up in this corner, and then I'm going to attempt the time bomb game. All right, I'm ready to cut some wires now. Okay, so I'm on easy, so I can knock these off and cut the wire in any order. If I was playing hard, I would have to do it in a specific order. Also, because I have a toolkit, I get an extra disc. So I can flick quicker and retrieve quicker because I'll have more options. I have to do this by the time the timer runs out. I hate this game because I'm just not good at it. So,
Are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm trying.
Here we go.
Okay, ready. Oh, forget that. What the heck? Okay, got one. Oh.
No! Boom. Okay. Because the bomb exploded, the objective is failed. So that's gonna go away.
So now I
And-
take an injury.
You will take 1 damage.
My shield takes 1 hit, and this explodes, and everything in here takes a hit because this only had 1 hit left.
That is correct. The danger token moves to this area. And threat goes up by 6.
Yes, so much fun.
Now it is at 12.
Yeah, it's at 12.
Which is the max level for easy.
Yeah, it can never get higher. Okay, so that is brutal, and yeah, so that's my entire turn, and it was a failure of a turn. So unfortunately, that didn't work out. I failed to disarm the bomb, so there's some consequences at the end of the mission here. So we're just going to take that, and that's that. And so now everything in this room takes damage because the bomb exploded.
Bomb is removed.
This is removed. I take 1 damage to my shield.
And the danger token now moves to this area. We can put it anywhere we want. I'm going to tuck it back in the corner there. And the threat tracker we're adjusting goes up by 6.
To 12.
And yes, we are currently at the max level threat for an easy difficulty game. That's not great for us.
No.
But that is also now the end of your turn.
Yes. All right. Phantoms have taken actions, and now the enemy's going to move, and we are in trouble. All right. So the highest tier enemy is going to go, the Enforcer. Moves right into here, line of sight. We're not going to show the other people moving because it doesn't matter for this. Now, once all of them have moved, then we look at the enemies take cover phase, and this is the salient and very, very nasty point. They immediately seek a way to shoot us without being shot. So they go to the corners. They're going to go to the closest corner that stops them from being attacked by me, the person they have in line of sight. Even if there was another player who had their phantom somewhere where they could be seen, they would still go to that spot. So he's going to hide right here, and he's going to attack me. And I got an X, which is a hit. So I take 1 shield damage. I'm not in cover, so it doesn't absorb anything. And that attack is now resolved. Now, we're going to put the danger token on, because anytime that you are fired upon during an attack, not during, if you're being reacted to after you've taken action, that you don't get it then. Only when you are specifically directly attacked during this phase, that pops on you, and now you become the sole target of the ire of the entire enemy force.
Action.
All right, so we fast forward a few rounds, and now it is the Phantom's turn to take actions. I'm going to take my first free action, open that up, which reveals this to be B, which is the second primary objective, the Mercury Bomb. So for my first action, standard action, I'm going to go in and come here, and for my second action, so we can complete the second mission, I'm going to
Diffuse the bomb.
I'm going to defuse this Mercury Bomb. All right, we're ready to defuse this Mercury Bomb, or at least I hope I am. So the object is, I'm going to place this marble in the center to begin, and I have to take these dice and put them in any one of these holes that I wish. Now, because I have a toolkit, I don't have to place 3, I can only place 2, which makes this far easier. I have to place it completely inside of the box without the marble falling in a hole or crossing this red line. All right, Mark, you say go when you think I'm ready.
Go for it.
Okay. Okay.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
We got this, we got this.
Go. No, whoa. You're stuck. You're still in it. Nope.
No, it went over.
I think you had it.
Okay, we'll give it one more shot. I'll give it one more shot just for demonstration purposes. I technically failed that because across the line. Okay, so ready?
Go.
Hold on, I
Steady.
gotta get this to
Steady.
stop. Okay, if I can get it to stop.
Steady. Go for it.
There,
Go.
there you go. Hold on.
Go.
I gotta stop. Accomplish the mission.
All right, done. It's harder than it looks. Maybe it looks really hard, I don't know. Okay, I want to demonstrate using the dice combat that is available in Phantom Division. My Phantom is here. I have an enemy right here. The first thing I do is build my dice pool. I'm equipped with a rifle, so I need 4 attack dice. Then I have to check how far away is the enemy. They are 2 areas away from me, like beyond mine. So I need 2 range dice and 2 effect dice. So I gather them all up and roll. And then I check my successes. I have 3 successes. All of these blanks mean nothing. These effects are terrain. If there was intervening terrain, they could soak up damage. But there is no intervening terrain. So, since I got more successes than failures, which look like that, I have done the damage that my weapon does, which in this case would be 1 damage, the enemy is eliminated. And that's how the dice combat works. Okay, I want to do another example of the dice combat, this time with a grenade. Grenades are an area of effect weapon, which means instead of a specific space that you're targeting, it's going to be that space plus the up to 8 surrounding spaces. Using the dice, first I have to build my dice pool. Grenades take 3 attack dice. And since my target, which is this enemy here, is 2 areas away, I will use 2 range dice and 2 effect dice. So, I'm going to go ahead and roll these. Okay, let's see, that is a failure. So I've got 1, 2, 3 successes, 1, 2 failures, and 2 terrain results, and a blank. So this is a success. But I do want to show you a couple other things that could have happened. If I would have rolled the scatter result, I have to, since it's an area of effect weapon, it could scatter. I have to take a look at which way the die is pointing. So that would move to this area. So I threw a pretty crazy grenade and I'm targeting this area now. And then furthermore, I got a terrain result. And if you miss, an intervening piece of terrain, such as this, is affected. So I would do a damage to that. That is what it would look like if I missed. Since I did hit, I look at my weapon effect. In the case of a grenade, everything in the area takes damage, so he would take a damage. This enemy would have taken a damage, and then my threat would go up by 6. And that is the end of that dice combat example.